Hi, Doug Ingram here with simplysupplychain.com, informative blog on supply chain, new technologies, strategies, and trends. Wanted to provide just really a quick overview of a new blog post that I presented today. It's in regards to how supply chains, and especially more elaborate, sophisticated supply chains, can learn a lot from startups and kind of the way they operate, the methodologies they employ. And particularly the premise of the article was there's a lot of parallels between today's very complicated, sophisticated supply chain and that of a entrepreneurial startup competing in a very competitive industry. For instance, they deal with a variety of stakeholders, something that each one of us in the supply chain have dealt with before. They also deal with a very rapidly changing environment, one in which they have to quickly assemble the variables, make a decision, understand the operating environment, kind of move from that path. So there's a number of parallels, I think, between the startup environment and that of the supply chain. And I go on in the article to talk about some characteristics that I think are really unique to startup environments, or done very well, let me say, by startups. And one of those is just the flexibility and adaptation of a startup. So they work in such a complex environment that they become very adaptive to new changes in their operating premise. And that's something I think is corporate supply chain managers and persons in the profession that we can learn from a startup. Additionally, they have a lot of flexibility, so they have a team that can play multiple roles, and it goes even deeper than that, and I talked just briefly about that a little bit. Communication, simply, is another really key one, and obviously there's a smaller environment that makes communication a bit easier. But one of the things I talk about is I don't think it's just a smaller environment. I think it's a issue of candor and the ability for startup members, who are often have kind of skin in the game, if you will. They're very candid with one another about how they're doing as a company, as a person, strategies, ideas. They don't hold back, and I think oftentimes in corporations we sometimes approach things with kid gloves, and we don't really approach things from a very candid perspective, and that's something I think that could definitely help corporate supply chains. And then I go on and I talk a little bit about their familiarity with the academic markets, and the idea that they can reach out and look at new intellectual property, new ideas in research institutions, and really begin to adapt that and think about how they can stay in front or with the trend in the whatever industry they're competing in. And then lastly, and probably my favorite one, is the idea of failing fast. And so, in a startup, capital, time's very limited, even more so than in a typical corporation, for obvious reasons. So one of the things I talk about is this idea that startups, they want to fail fast, if that makes sense. They want to test the idea, assimilate the information, get the focus group, or get the data, the analytics regarding what's been occurring with that new product launch or that new module. And if it's working, they want to keep augmenting and adding and reiterating. And if it's not working, they want to kill it. So that's something I think is probably, supply chain executives, managers, etc. That's something that we could definitely learn from, is the idea that we need to make decisions quickly based on real statistical information, and we want to do so in a very expeditious manner, if you will. So that's it. A quick overview. Hope that was helpful, and hope you liked the article, and definitely would love to get some feedback. Thank you.